The next category is things that you should probably not even think of trying to print, because they will definitely fail. The first type is objects that are excessively tall and skinny, or sticking straight off the bed, or protruding too far out from the main body of your object. Objects like this are not printable, one, because they will not adhere to the bed and they'll snap clean off. Two, because the print quality will degrade significantly by the time you get to the top of these objects because of the flexibility of the plastic. This is not to say that you can't have skinny or protruding objects coming out of a model. It means that they just have to stay sort of under control. Something like this is pushing it way too far. Next is something that's excessively wiry or frame-like. There's no good absolute minimum thickness of wire elements that you can print on the machines. I would say about 1/8 of an inch or 3 millimeters is kind of the thinnest that you should try to print anything. It's context sensitive, so you can have small wire elements that are part of a larger model. But in this case, that's primarily frame. Definitely not going to work. Look for another way to do it. The next example of something that's not going to work looks like it would work, except that you have not positioned them correctly on the build plate. If you are printing multiple objects, make sure, we see a lot of failures like this. Make sure that all of your objects are on the same level in Z. They don't have to be at Z0 in Rhino, they just have to be all in the same place, wherever that is. And don't gumball them manually like I did. Snap them to something that's all on the same level. This goes for all 3D printing, but your objects need to be solid, watertight objects. Sometimes this, if you have a complicated Rhino model that you've butchered through bullioning and other operations, it's going to need a lot of surgery to get to the point where it's printable as a solid object. When you're modeling for the 3D printers, think of modeling in solids and manipulating them as little as possible to get there. But you can't print things that are open surfaces. You can't print things that are open volumes. Finally, there's a category of printable but not a good idea objects that we would categorize as discretion-based 3D prints. The 3D printers take a lot of time to do something that requires a good amount of material and has a good amount of failure. If you're trying to 3D print something that has a really natural analog on another machine that could be done faster, more efficiently, less expensively, we're going to encourage you to use that technique instead. So if you have something that clearly looks like it should be done on the CNC, or clearly looks like it should be done on a laser cutter, and you don't have an absolutely specific compelling reason to do it this way, we're not going to let that job clog up the queues of hundreds of 3D prints around deadlines. Suggest doing it on another machine. Every model is unique, and your model is going to have a combination of any or all of these factors to it. But as long as you adhere to those general principles of knowing that you need a good contact surface with the bed, if it's possible, you need objects that are solid and contiguous, at least in some parts, to give some structure to it. And you need to make sure that you've positioned and aligned everything on the bed correctly and that they're watertight. Do those things and your chances for success increase exponentially. Okay, so let's take an object that is a bit of a combination of some of these attributes and set it up to be printed.